Hello, friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Before we take you to your favorite Sports History Network show, just want to tell you a little bit about some merch that you can pick up that represents your favorite SHN podcast. So far, there's t-shirts, coffee mugs, and even books from some of the authors that do podcasts right here on SHN. Who could buy something better than that, than have the history right from the gentleman that you hear talking about it? But we also are adding things each and every day. And where's that store, may you ask? Well, it's at SportsHistoryNetwork.com. Up at the top, there is the SHN merch button. Click on that. It'll take you right to the store, and you can be representing your favorite podcast and show the world that, hey, on the swag that I'm using, it's the headquarters of sports yesteryear, Sports History Network, and my favorite podcaster, the Sports History Network store. Shop there today. It's Tuesday, and once again, it's time to dig in a little bit of football history with our friend, historian Timothy Brown of the FootballArchaeology.com website. Today, we're going to talk about some of the football's markings and the stripes on the ball themselves. Coming up in just a moment.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history on a day-to-day basis. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time. So as we come out of the tunnel of the Sports History Network, let's take the field and go no huddle through the portal of positive gridiron history with PigskinDispatch.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history. And we're going to stare down that portal today and go back into some of the balls themselves on the gridiron. And we have our friend from Football Archaeology, Timothy Brown, the great author and historian. Tim, welcome back to the Pig Pen.
Hey, Darren. Thanks for having me back. And hopefully you and the listeners are enjoying the process. I certainly am.
Yeah, this is a blast, and folks, it's even more fun when you can get the daily tidbits, delivered to your email or checking on social media. And Tim, if you don't mind, we'll do it again at the end. But why don't you give your social media and your website so people can enjoy this?
Yeah, so my website is footballarchaeology.com. So real straightforward name, and it's a Substack platforms, so it's very, very easy. You just subscribe, provide your email, subscribe to it, and so each day you'll get a daily tidbit or today's tidbit, and then 2 to 3 times a week you'll get an additional email with either a full article, a link to this podcast, or some other kind of information that's football history related. So I also post on Twitter under the name Football Archaeology, and at FOFS.
And we'll have those in the show notes, folks. We'll also mention it at the end of this episode right now. And Football Archaeology is the perfect name, Tim, you chose, because you are sort of the Indiana Jones of the gridiron history. You really dig into the dirt, and we're expecting you to find the Ark of the Covenant and everything else going on, maybe Lombardi's sweat socks or something. But so we have got some interesting things, as you do every week, as you do every day, that you share with us every week here on the podcast. Now, today, we're going to talk a little bit about the footballs in a recent post you had and some of the striping on the footballs.
Yeah. So, this is just one of those things that, I spend time looking through old college yearbooks and, just looking for images that say something about the game and how it differed from today. And so in the course of doing that in the past, I've come across just several different changes to the ball itself. And so, of course, so I'm going to go way back first before talking about the stripes. But, football started as rugby. And so initially we used the rugby ball. So it was, much more of an egg shape or ovoid or oval, but basically it was a lot fatter. And it went through a couple different stages of slimming down. And by 1934, it basically got to more or less the shape that we have today. And so that shape was pointier, and so it was easier to throw. It was easier for somebody with a smaller hand to throw. But by becoming pointier, it also by and large eliminated the drop kick from the game. The ball just bounced more unpredictably because of the pointier nose. And so, but besides, so that, clearly there were changes in the football just in terms of the shape and its size, but then the way it was actually kind of decorated, if you will. As early as 1903 and possibly earlier, but by 1903, Amos Alonzo Stagg was painting the ball white when they were using it at night. So Chicago's a pretty tough school. Guys were in class till late, and so he had to practice late. So he installed lights fairly early on and used a white football for practice. And then, typically when people were played early night games, they used either a white or a yellow painted ball. And that was kind of the case until the 1930s. And the 30s is when striping first came to be, at least as far as I can, I've been able to determine. And the first game that I know was striped was a 1936 BYU and then what's now Northern Colorado. But that wasn't because of night game. It was because they were kind of arguing over whether they should use a white ball when when BYU was going to wear white jerseys and Northern Colorado was going to wear brown pants, so they didn't want to use a brown ball, so they agreed on a brown ball with white stripes. And because otherwise, they were concerned about hidden ball tricks and those kinds of things.
Right.
Something we just don't really think about anymore. And then, kind of, I don't know that the striped ball really got used a whole lot until then in the early 50s, as more and more teams were playing night games. They just weren't, it was just typically they were using this white ball or a white ball with black stripes. And in other cases, they used a brown ball with either one or two white stripes. So, so it was just like anything else. Football had to go through this kind of testing out or trying out period. We all know where the stripes belong on a football now, but they had to kind of figure that out for a while. So early on, some of the manufacturers put the stripes further towards the middle of the ball, so they actually overlapped the ends of the laces. Now they're further out beyond the laces. And the ball also went, and some of them had two sets of stripes on each side. So there'd be the one that overlapped the laces, and then the other one more or less where our laces or the stripes go today. So then they got into a thing, the high school association kind of required the striped ball starting in 1953. The NFL used a white ball for night games until 1956. And then they went with a tan or brown ball with white stripes before finally eliminating that in 1976. So since 76, they've gone with no stripes. And the NCAA, even though people were using the striped ball, they officially sanctioned it in 65 and then formally adopted the striped ball if I said 75, I meant 65, and then formally adopted it in 75. So it's just, and then the other thing is that whether people realize it or not, the ball originally had the white stripes or the black stripes, it was the full circumference of the ball, right? And then quarterbacks complained that the paint was slippery on their thumb. And so they basically, the NFL for a while took the stripe off of one of the four panels of a football. So wherever that quarterback's thumb, would have been, so a right-handed quarterback, it would have been, the bottom of the side of one side. If it's a left-handed quarterback, they had to have another ball there, or set of balls, because their thumb is, is on a different side of the ball. And so then when the when the NCAA moved to the white stripe, as this is now a requirement, they put the white stripe only on the top panel, two panels of the ball.
So the sides that the laces are on.
That is correct. Okay. Now the CFL has stripes on all 4 panels. So apparently I always like to say that the Canadian thumbs aren't as slippery as American thumbs, even though most of the quarterbacks up there are Americans anyways.
Right.
So one of those goofy little combinations of, different levels of football have chosen different ways to either incorporate stripes or not. And it took a little while for each of them to kind of figure out how they wanted to do it.
That's pretty neat stuff. That's pretty good history. And I know just to take it to a modern twist, it's probably just all aesthetics, but I saw the USFL this year. Their stripes were just a series of stars going around the circumference of the ball on each end where the normal stripes would be. I thought that was interesting.
No, I did not pick up on that. I didn't.
It's kind of different, just to be their own ball, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to turn around here. I've got an arena league ball, up on the shelf behind me, but that did not have any stripes, at least at the time that it bounced into the stands to me and my sons.
I learned, I was talking to a childhood friend of mine. He ended up kicking for Pitt and played on some NFL teams, Sean Conley. And in a recent interview we had with him, he was talking about where the sweet spot is for a kicker. And it's a nickel size, I believe he identified it as. And it's sort of right in that area where the stripe is. And he said, he didn't kick in high school, but he kicked the high school ball. He was a soccer player. That's how he, got his practice into want to try out, be a walk-on at Pitt. And he said he's practiced with a stripe ball, and that's where the sweet spot is. He goes to the college ball, the stripes are missing on the side he wants to kick on because he wants laces out, Ray Finkel or Roy Finkel, whatever his name was in that movie. But he said, and then you go to the NFL, there's no stripes. So you have to, but it's in that general area where the stripes are, but just doesn't have anything to do with the stripe, but I thought it was something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that, people don't, like old photographs of night football games, part of it's just, the cameras weren't as good and the shutter speeds, they weren't able to adjust some of that the way people can today. But, like the early incandescent bulbs versus today's LEDs, the LEDs put out 40 times more, more light. So you can just imagine how dim the lighting was in some of those early attempts to play night football. So they needed a white ball and they needed stripes a whole lot more than we need them today.
Well, fascinating stuff as always. We thank you for sharing that history with us. And why don't you give out your website one more time and your social media? And we thank you for that history.
Yeah. So footballarchaeology.com. And then so just subscribe for free, see if you like it. And if you do, you'll get one every day. And then I'm also on Twitter, and I said FOFS earlier, but it's at FOF Strife. So that's my Twitter handle. But also, search Football Archaeology on Twitter, and you'll find me right away.
Okay. And like we said, folks, if you're driving a car right now, listening to this podcast, we thank you for that. You can, when you pull over and get some safety, check the show notes, and on pigskindispatch.com, we'll have Tim's information there as well to get you to him. Tim Brown, thank you once again, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Very good. Look forward to seeing you. Thanks.
That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
It was just another ordinary day in the offices of the Pittsburgh Guardian newspaper circa 1924. But for Marla Delft, assistant editor, everything was about to change. For she was about to discover the awesome attractiveness of Row 1 brand retro sports paraphernalia items thanks to Orville Mulligan, sports writer.
And there it is.
Wow, Orville, that's really the bee's knees.
Isn't it just? A poster-sized replica of the actual 1909 World Series program cover.
I can see that. But where did you get it? And where'd you get it framed?
I ordered it from the Row 1 website, where over 6,000 items of sports memorabilia from the 1880s to the 1990s are available for reproduction in multiple sizes and in several different materials, with over a dozen styles of frame to choose from for prints like this.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Delft would love to put up more of these in the office. But I'm equally as sure they're beyond this newspaper's budget.
Not at all, my dear Marla. See for yourself. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com/row1.
sportshistorynetwork.com/row1. Oh my, these are good prices. Oh, and look at this stuff. Oklahoma-Nebraska football, college basketball art, Michael Jordan items.
And so it
retro
was that
sports
Marla Delft
advertisement
discovered the
clapboard.
splendiferous magic of Row 1 sports memorabilia, arts, and prints. You can too by visiting sportshistorynetwork.com/row1. That's ROW1 today for access to the full Row 1 catalog of gallery prints and gifts like t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, telephone cases, coffee mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Act today for a 15% discount off all prints with coupon code SHN15 and 20% off all other items with coupon code SHN20 at checkout. And keep your dial locked to the Sports History Network for the exciting chronicles of the 1920 sports world in Orville Mulligan, sports writer. Coming soon.